Well, hey, everybody, glad to be back with you again. And we have a guest today, and it's been a little bit of time since our last episode with a guest. And I'm excited about this one as we get 2026 started. And my guest today is David Noe, and our topic is work trends of 2026, the human reset. And before we jump into this conversation, I just want to give you a brief background and bio of David, just so you get a feel for where he's coming from and how he can really help us think through some things today. So David brings nearly 20 years of experience across HR, payroll, operations, and leadership, helping organizations value people as much as performance. He's the founder and host of the SpeakEasy HR, a live podcast centered on real conversations that challenge leaders to build cultures where people want to show up. He's grounded in faith, family, and leadership development. David's actively involved in the HR community through the SHRM, Disrupt HR, and regional partnerships, while also co owning a small business with his wife. He believes that when people feel seen, supported, and empowered, organizations win. And David, I'll go ahead and tease that you are working on a book that we will someday promote on here as well, and we're super excited about that. But why don't we jump into this? Thanks for being here, first of all.
Yeah, absolutely. I am really excited. I know we've connected several times, and you were on
Mhm.
Speakeasy HR with episode 23 earlier last year. So if anybody's looking for the episode with Chris, go back to episode 23 on speakeasyhr.com.
And with that, just before we jump into this specific topic, I mean, why don't you give a little shout out about what was the driving force of even starting that podcast so that you could bring on so many guests that you have?
Yeah, I had the idea back early 2024 and just where I was at in my career and people I've met and connected with. I'm like, I really feel like if I had the right approach to a podcast, people would learn, listen, engage, and I would learn, along the way. So I made
Mm-hmm.
a short list of 12 people and
Okay.
I went to the company that I work for, Payroll Partners, and I said, "Look, I want to do a podcast. Would you be supportive of it?" And they said, "Absolutely. Let's see where it goes." So fast forward, I got through a whole year of episodes. I was doing them live on Mondays, and I've just been able to connect with so many different people, people that have been in the HR community for many, many years, people that
Mm-hmm.
have created job boards like Monster.com. I had the founder of Monster.com,
Mm-hmm.
and I have conversations with people I never thought I would be able to connect with, and
Yeah.
so it's exciting, and I have a lot of guests scheduled up until the end of 2026.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
a lot to, be excited about, different audiences, different guests. And so it's turned into having a newsletter, monthly on LinkedIn, which I just started this month, the
Mm-hmm.
Top Shelf Insider, having a blog on speakeasyhr.com, and again, just going to local events and people are recognizing it and talking to me and obviously promoting payroll partners and what we do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really just helped on a lot of different angles. So
Yeah, it's awesome to because you bring in so many different voices and perspectives from, all different angles of the industry and the people development side of things. And I think that's so critical today based on where we are with AI and technology and how that's disrupting, as well as enhancing in many ways. But yeah, so let's maybe kind of start there. It's like, well, what does 2026 look like in this environment we are today?
yeah, before I even looked at my calendar this week, I was going to an event this morning, and it was similar to what we're going to be talking about, really the human reset, the human revolution, and what HR professionals can see that AI can't,
Okay.
and really what the human reset is. So critical workplace scenarios right now. And what I've been hearing, and I was part of a webinar last week, I was moderating it, and what leaders are really looking forward to and trying to attract and retain talent and competitive pay, benefits, career growth, development. It's all kind of shifting a little bit.
Mm,
And I think the uncertainty of where AI and technology is going, I think people really want to have a career development program, mentorship opportunities, have that trust in their organization to help them in their career
mhm.
and really help people get more engaged. The gap, my gosh, like what's the future like with careers and workforce? 32% of employees are fully engaged at work.
Yeah.
49% of people are feeling like they are being fulfilled in their career development. So there's a lot of opportunity for companies to get behind this focus and have a human connection with their staff and really figure out a way to attract the people they want if they are
Hmm.
looking to grow and create jobs or
Hmm.
fill open positions and find the right approach to developing an AI program into their workforce and really beyond what AI can do with from a human connection. And that to me is so important with people staying in HR. I know a lot of people in HR that are burned out. And
Hmm.
it's one of those career paths that you have to find the right company and organization to work for and really align with how you value HR, right?
Hmm.
Um, so again, HR plays a huge role in the workforce still, even
Hmm.
as technology and AI is changing constantly.
Yeah. Well, it makes me think too, just, as much as COVID disrupted everything back in 2020, 2021, HR leaders were really at the forefront of a lot of that, right? Because it was managing, the people, how do we help them, from the remote side? How do we help them when they do get sick? How do we help, like, how do we protect the people? And like all these things. And I watched HR leaders really go through it back then. I'm sure you did too. But you're right. Like now there's all these other, I'll say, fears and concerns based on HR or AI rather in the HR space for employees. And what does it look like? And it's interesting now. I'm a dad of three young adults, and one of them, my son, is a sophomore in college, and he's looking at his future and he's going, I don't know what the workforce looks like, and he's trying to
Yeah.
make decisions in school about that. And so, the up and coming generation, it's going to be a different experience in many ways based on technology today than what you and I and those before us, really walked into. So, any thing that you're seeing that's helping navigate that, especially as people enter the workforce?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there's different industries that are going to get impacted more by AI. I think things that are automated, even recruiting and conducting phone interviews
Okay.
and conducting interviews with applicants. So people that are looking to save time and be more efficient in their job. Um, that's where I think AI and technology is going to really shift. And you're
Hmm.
going to spend less time having to do research and
Hmm.
develop programs and ideas. I mean, anybody that's gone into a ChatGPT or something and just put together, hey, I'm looking for ideas on this,
Hmm.
or what are some of the recent trends on this? Like it can, at the snap of a finger, you can have access to so much stuff. So I look at the generation coming into the workforce and what they value as a generation.
Hmm.
They want to feel like they are going to have a belonging and purpose in their job
Yeah.
and find motivation in their work to really make an impact. And the older generations just want autonomy. They just want to be left alone. They want to do their job. They all have to really use technology, but I look at like mentorship, and it's National Mentor Month. My guest on Speakeasy HR this week was all about how to co-create a workforce that is engaging from the employer and the employee. And
Okay.
so I think no matter what industry these younger generation individuals are getting into, I think they really want to look at, what kind of clarity and purpose they can have in their work, what kind of organization they want to work in.
Hmm.
And even me, when I interview people, I ask, what are you looking for in your next company?
Yeah.
It's training, growth, career development, flexibility, right? Like people have lives, personal
Hmm.
lives, and more than just work. So, there's you have to shift and provide that flexibility to your workforce and the return to office and people that are trying to offer flexible work schedules and everything.
Hmm.
It's going to stay. Like that's not going away.
Yeah.
Um, but again, with my kids, like my kids are in high school, grade school, and I'm trying to figure out like where they should really focus on
Yeah.
having a career. Um,
Hmm.
there's certain careers that are not going to get impacted as much,
Sure.
right? There's going to be people that are putting roofs on buildings, people that are in construction, people that are in healthcare. There are going to be ways that AI is going to dramatically change their work.
Hmm.
but there are still going to be a lot of need for the skilled trades too, right? I just had someone checking my furnace yesterday. Like we're
Yeah.
going to need those.
Yeah.
So college is great. College is for certain people, not for everybody, So I think it's very individualized and personalized. And
Hmm.
that's for everybody with kids growing up right now. It's like what do they really want to do in their career? And
Yeah.
a lot of people have side gigs still. Like
Yeah.
people have side gigs, they're doing different things beyond their day-to-day work or fractional work too.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it's a really interesting time, and I'm excited to see what comes out of the next 5 years.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting because, you mentioned the trades. I mean, my younger son, he's getting ready to graduate high school and he's been at a career center to be an electrician. And
Yeah.
he's been, two weeks a month full time working as that. 2 weeks a month, he's going to school, doing his general, studies. And so within just, the next 6 months, he's going to be graduating and moving into that space. And it's like, I just keep seeing numbers of how many electricians are needed because of AI and because of technology advancements. And even Elon's talking about, putting electric generators on the moon, I mean, like it's going to be a wild next decade, I think, of so much. And it's like, all this being said is like you said, personalization and how do I lead in that environment, right? Because like you mentioned, the remote work, and yet at the same time, we've been hearing and seeing there's some companies that are saying like, look, we've been primarily remote. I want you back in the office, or how many days a week do we do that hybrid model? So it's very interesting to me to look ahead, and I know you don't have a crystal ball to see how all this shakes out necessarily, but what do you think from that human dynamic of engaging with people then when you talk about those engagement figures, what does a leader do to create a more engaged employee workforce?
I think the one thing that everybody wants, and this is more of a psychological uh, answer, and this is something that was brought up this morning at the webinar I was at. Everybody wants this one thing in their life, and it's control.
Mm,
And if you don't have control, you are going to be very disengaged, not motivated. So when you look at middle management and everything that they are facing on a day-to-day basis, those people in your organization are the most important jobs within your team.
mm,
The leadership has obviously a huge influence. They need to support the middle managers. They need to give them the tools, resources, and the opportunities to motivate and engage their teams.
mhm,
And so I've seen it time and time again, the middle management and trying to keep them engaged in their job and motivated when they're trying to manage a team, they're trying to meet deadlines, they're trying to excel their team. Everybody doesn't have rock stars on their team, that's
sure,
the easy team to manage. But
right,
in any organization that has a set group of managers that are not leaders, owners, CEO, executives, those are the people that you really want to focus on and really establish their career plan and where they want to be and where they want to go in the future within the organization. Everybody talks
mm,
about we want to promote from within. We want to promote from within.
mhm,
But who are your future leaders, right?
yeah,
Who are those future leaders? And so really if you can find the right recipe to that and really apply mentorship too,
mm,
because if you own a business and someone wants to be, you know, applying mentorship to their job, they might not have the right mentors in that building. They might have to go outside of that. So then you
mm,
look at, what organizations, what chambers of commerce, what is available to that individual to really go out beyond their walls and impact the community, impact their industry, right? Like for HR, I'm involved in SHRM, I'm involved in Disrupt HR. So again, there's a lot that an organization has to focus on, but the middle management is just
mm.
so critical.
And that's really interesting. You're bringing that up because I do agree. I think that's what I see a lot of times because even in my business of coaching leaders, one of the things I kind of I'll say refocused or dialed in a little bit more is is coming alongside the senior leaders to help develop those middle managers because of the impact they have on the frontline worker, right? So a lot of times senior leaders, they've had coaching mentors, they've had, a journey that's allowed them to become able and capable to do what they do,
Yeah.
but it's a lot of people down lower in the org chart that haven't had that as intentionally for their development. So that's been my whole, pitch is let's partner together to help develop those people so they have that support in that work, environment that they know you're investing in them, because I think that speaks a lot to employees when you're willing to invest the time, energy, and resources into me so that I can be more successful, then I'm going to be more loyal and committed to
Yep.
you as an organization and as a leadership team. So I agree, but I also think that the thing I also hear regularly is, well, when do we squeeze this in, right? Like when do we invest in our people? It's not so much a money thing for a lot of businesses. It's the time factor.
Yep.
And I think honestly, that's a challenge, right? I mean, and
Yep.
maybe AI helps that a little bit because we can be more efficient. But just like I think we heard from, back in the 1950s and 60s, they're like, oh, as technology increases, we'll barely be working. And then what we ultimately did was work more because we were more efficient. We thought, well, we can just get more done in the same amount of time. So I
Yeah.
think how can we be smart with these tools to not just once again take that next quantum leap of speeding up our lives and putting more burden on us because we have these tools.
Yeah. Yeah. AI is not going to create your culture. It can give you ideas. It can give you a clear path to communicate that to your staff, but someone still has to, as an organization, help that culture improve and sustain it and really develop it over time. And everybody plays a role in that.
Hmm.
Every single employee plays a role in the culture.
Yeah.
If you're not a manager or a leader, but you rely on those employees to really help new hires come in and
Hmm.
learn the environment and learn the culture,
Hmm.
it really plays such a huge role in just the overall feeling people have on a Monday morning,
Yeah.
and if people wake up on a Monday morning and just dread going to work,
Yeah.
you're not going to get much productivity out of them.
Right.
And who's going to suffer for
Yeah.
that?
Well, I even, I first heard it with John Maxwell. I'm sure he got it from somebody else, down the road as well. But I teach it regularly as this process of, I do, you watch, I do, you help, you do, I help, you do, I watch, and this four-step kind of a sequence of developing people. But to me, a byproduct of that is the relationship is formed, the mentorship is built into that process, and then it's like, okay, now that I've done this with you, now go do that for somebody else, pass that on, and I'm still here to support you.
Yep.
And I think that, it's simple. It's not necessarily easy because it does take a commitment of time and energy, and a willingness, but I think it's a very powerful model of, bringing the tactical skill development of an employee alongside that personable mentoring.
Yep.
And I think that, it's funny, my grandfather, he was a blue collar sheet metal worker in the Cincinnati area for his career. And I remember even as a kid, him talking about his apprentices. And over time, I got to thinking how blue collar industry has use that model. Whereas white collar, I feel like it could be a secret weapon, kind of an X factor to bring that apprenticeship model into the workplace because once again, relationship connection and investment in people. So what are your thoughts on that? Do you see that being a model worth pursuing for people?
Yeah, and it's all going to be relative to your industry. So manufacturing and people that are on some kind of frontline um, job, it's going to come down to, do they understand the importance of their role and what impact their role makes on the organization, and what their role impacts beyond the walls of the organization. So, the more communication and clear communication that you can have, the better, when it comes to career paths. The optimal team has four components to it with motivation. It's rational thinking, the experience of working in that organization, conformity, and the attitude of winning and staying on top of everything that you can do in your role. So if you can do that, you're going to have an optimal team, and everyone plays a part in that. You
Hmm.
don't want to have somebody just doing one piece of that puzzle either.
Yeah.
So again, you want to have a diverse, well-formed team, and an optimal team in every industry is going to be different. And again, that's why people like you and other outside fractional
Hmm.
leadership development programs and companies exist
Hmm.
because they see what really works. And if someone sees that and values that, long term, it could really play a huge role. And I know some companies just don't invest the time and effort and the finance side of it to bring someone in like yourself. So, again, you see that probably more than me.
Well, and you just see the staggering numbers of the cost of turnover and replacement, right?
Hmm.
And it's depending on the role. I mean, it's staggering, what it costs. And that's my thing is, it truly is an investment of, and if you really look at how can I invest in my people so that we do have this long-term investment without trying to find their replacement because they're not happy, they're not engaged. And, I'm working with the local schools here. We're going to have a meeting soon about how do we even get our high school students to be able to go and do some job shadowing and internships
Yep.
locally to even get a good feel for what's possible and what's interesting to them because like you said, education has changed so much. You don't have to, the days of everybody going to college just doesn't make sense the way it once maybe did, and
Right.
that era has shifted. And so
Yeah.
when people can go and these younger adults can go and experience what's it like in different industries, what's it like. My dad's one, he's 77 years old, and his story was he went to college to be a high school teacher, got through all of college, did a student teaching and hated it, and never has taught a day in his life. Ended up in retail, then he ended up having his own business. And but what would have happened if he would have had mentors and ways to observe, what industries, what are things like, so early on, not at the end of the process. And I think that if we can help younger people do that, but also just giving other people experiences even inside an organization, maybe doing some shadowing of what's it like if I got promoted to this department or what's it like in this role.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm just kind of brainstorming at that point now, but I mean, so kind of winding things up here. How do we measure this though? How do we this whole human component and this human centered workplace that you're talking about? How do you measure success? Because that's hard.
Yeah. I think for measuring success, there's a few things. You can look at what the retention is of the organization, what the culture is. I think a lot of job seekers, the last stat I saw with some of the data, 88% of job seekers say the company culture matters most
Mm,
uh, when choosing an employer. And so when it comes to attracting and retaining talent, you can obviously track that,
mm,
and really pull your current workforce and create something that you will find valuable as an organization. So if it's a culture survey, if it's a pulse survey, you take a survey today, and let's say you had a horrible morning, you were late to work, there was an accident on the highway, you
yeah.
had a horrible morning, and then you would have probably answered a poll question a little different than next week. So
Yeah.
really having a good pulse on your organization and your staff. Some
Hmm.
leaders don't even understand what's going on in their workforce,
Yeah.
in their company. They just assume because they don't hear about it. Well, if you can find the right environment and approach to polling your audience in your company
Hmm.
to get the best feedback, you can track
Yeah.
that. You can track how they enjoy their job. What are they missing in their job? Some people don't like to give surveys to their employees. And I think a lot of it is they're gonna send a survey to me. I'm gonna take it, but then what are they gonna do with it? What am I gonna see different?
Right.
Um,
Is it worth my time taking it, right?
and is it anonymous? Are they gonna figure out who I am and fire me if
Yeah.
I give bad feedback? So you've got to have the right approach to it so they feel comfortable giving
Hmm.
their true, honest feedback.
Hmm.
And again, that's why middle management's so important,
Yeah.
right? Like you have to have those one-on-one meetings with your team. You got to know what people are feeling and really get back to also what you can do to recognize those people. A lot of people just call out the negative and they don't
Yeah.
celebrate the small wins. They don't celebrate when people achieve something. So it's this right balance of recognition, motivation, employee engagement
Hmm.
as the culture. And I don't care what kind of company you have, culture is so important.
Yeah.
And again, that's something that the human reset, the trends for this year, and really what people are looking for, and how much they can find out about a company before they join it.
Yeah.
I typically ask in the phone interview, I say, what kind of culture are you looking for?
Yeah.
Have you ever worked for an organization under 50 employees? If they've worked at large organizations of thousands of employees,
Yeah.
that's a much different culture than a company of 40.
Hmm.
So, if you intentionally find those kind of people that want to come onto your team, um, it's really going to make a huge
Hmm.
impact. So tracking that and having the right data and measuring it, I think it really comes down to how the organization wants to measure it. You
Hmm.
can't manage what you can't measure.
Yeah.
And
Well,
there's a lot of platforms out there to do that.
yeah. Well, I was
Right.
just going to say, I mean, I've had a couple of recent interviews with Ben Green. I think you introduced me
Yep.
to him from
Yep.
Trailpath Workplace Solutions. They've got a really amazing tool. And then also, I met another younger guy who's created an app for managers called Hourglass Leadership, Kyle Bowen. And he talked about he formerly was in management at Chick-fil-A, and
Hmm.
so he created a tool to help managers have that real-time engagement and have a path of staying on top of things as a manager. So you're right. That's to me where I think technology and the human side can really come together in a very positive way is
Absolutely.
use these tools that are available. And, because it is hard to just, like you said, every day brings its own challenges, right? Whether it's from home to work or on the
Yep.
work, on the job site, whatever. So, finding ways to be able to see visually in these tools, okay, a month ago, this person was really doing well. Today they're struggling or vice versa. So how do we manage that and help
Right.
them? And
Right.
um, so
Yeah,
so with
that's definitely one thing we haven't had in the past. And so the middle
mhm,
management being so critical and really having the right questions, like you said, in some of these apps, some of these
mhm,
platforms, you can really predict who are going to be the people potentially leaving next and how you can
mhm,
avoid that. And maybe those managers just don't have the right tools and resources and experience because if you know anybody that's been promoted to a manager,
yeah,
they're like, "Oh, I've never been a manager, but I was good at my job, so I got
right,
promoted." Well, can they manage people? Can they lead? Really influence the organization on a positive level. So again, these kinds of things that are being created and existing now are going to be so important. And so that's the positives of
yeah,
these platforms, but you still need to have the human
sure.
connection from the manager and the peer and the employee. So,
Yeah. Well, it makes me think about how companies often do a great job of onboarding from a technical standpoint, but how are they being intentional in the same way with if I'm promoting somebody to a management role, am I being as intentional as when somebody enters the organization for the skill
yeah.
level, right? Like now it's about
Yep.
the people side. And so are we investing in that development too?
Right.
So last question here, David, looking ahead, what gives you hope? What gives you hope for the future of work as you're, in this space, talking and hearing, from a lot of different HR professionals? What is it?
So there's a lot of hope. I think culture and purpose is a big focus moving into the future with the workforce.
Hmm.
Leadership is playing such a critical role in that, and top to bottom, everyone plays a role in the culture, like I've said. So, there's definitely some organizations that are having to reshift how they approach work if they are going through acquisitions and mergers, which are definitely happening in our industry in payroll and HR technology. So there's challenges with that. And, people that are focused on retention,
Yeah,
long-term success for employees, there's going to be a lot of challenges, but there's going to be, a lot of opportunities. And I go back to the career development and the mentorship opportunities and really looking into your industry and finding certifications that you can support.
Yeah.
right? HR, payroll, their certifications. We
Hmm.
support that. I promote that when I talk to individuals for a job. I'm
Hmm.
like, "Hey, have you ever thought about getting certified in payroll, HR?" And they say, "Yes, I would love to. I just haven't had the right support with my company. They haven't paid for it."
Hmm.
So, those little things that you can look at and really figure out what aren't you doing now that you can do in the future and focus on from a human connection standpoint, career development, as jobs change and you have to shift, how can you help the change management for the team?
Yeah.
And so there's going to be, like I said, a lot of challenges, but people that really are in the right organization, maybe just not in the right seat. People are going to still job hop and look around.
Sure.
Um, so the more that you can find the right people to come into your organization, understand that there is an employee experience that you're offering, how
Hmm.
the culture plays a role, how the people play the role, and have clear communication to really build momentum, there's going to be a lot of successful organizations out there that if they really apply it like that.
Yeah, no, that makes total. And I think adaptability is so incredibly important in this age,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
are you a adaptable leader? I mean, it's
Yep.
there's so much coming at us. We have to be willing to pivot and adjust and deal with things that maybe past generations of leaders didn't have to. And they had to deal with things that previous generations didn't have. I think it's just a human experience that every
Yeah.
generation has its own new challenges. We just happen to have, I'll say, it seems like an accelerated challenge with all of technology and AI going as fast as it is. But to your point, we're still human beings at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So,
I
but
will I will quote one of my previous guests from SpeakEasy HR, episode 15 with Kendra Ramirez. She is a
mm,
regional HR AI expert.
yeah,
She's
I know
been
Kendra.
studying AI for a long time, and she said on my podcast, 85% of jobs that will be available in 2030 haven't been created yet. And
Wow.
you look at that number, and it stands out to me even back, episode 15 was in 2024, late 2024, and that data probably has changed a little bit, but we're 4 years away from that. And
Right.
if that is true or close to it, there are so many jobs that haven't even been created yet
Yeah.
that will be. And you
Hmm.
look at what the World Wide Web, everyone's like, oh, the World Wide Web is going to take all these jobs. Well, what happened, right?
And it's
Like
exploded with options and opportunity.
it changed everything. And so I think everything going on right now in technology and AI is going to shift it again. And
Yeah.
people will have to adapt and be okay with that and really just apply it in their job. I mean, everybody may know what ChatGPT is. They might have used it on a consistent basis. I use it for a lot of different reasons. And
Yeah.
and so again, you have to be open and adaptable to it, and really figure out how you can use it to effectively be more efficient in your job.
Yeah.
Not completely replace everything in your job,
Right.
but really apply it and make the most of it while also
100%.
having that human connection. I think that is
Sure.
still critical.
Well, and here's the thing. If you utilize AI to help you with the tasks, you actually can create margin in your schedule to do the human connection. And I
Yes.
think that's an opportunity that people maybe not aren't thinking of yet. And I think if we can do that, and say, look, this is going to give me space to really guide the people side of things, it'd be amazing. So,
Yep. Absolutely.
David, thanks so much for being with us again today. Give it Payroll Partners. What's your website for that?
Yeah, payrollpartners.net. We are a full service HR payroll technology partner. So I just did a blog this week about the difference between a vendor and a partner.
Okay.
And I've lived it. I've felt the pain of people when they have the wrong technology in
Yeah.
their company and you don't want to mess someone's payroll and their paycheck.
Yeah.
It's their livelihood.
Hmm.
That's a big reason why people work is the paycheck.
Sure.
And so we can help customize the system for that business of all shapes and sizes and industries. So if anyone's interested in hearing more, would love to just connect and hear about your situation and
Yeah.
what you have going on and what you're trying to do in the future and how we can help.
Awesome. Well, I'll put that link in the show notes as well as your podcast, and definitely
Yeah,
encourage people to check you out on LinkedIn because I know you do a
yeah,
great job of sharing who's coming up as well as who's on the show each week. So,
yeah,
but yeah,
yeah. And
thanks
there's
again.
some, yeah, absolutely. There's some great HR events coming up in the region too. So I'm fortunate to be on a lot of planning teams for these events. And so every quarter I have the pleasure of working with these organizers for these upcoming HR events. So Disrupt HR, HR Collaborative, they're coming up. And then just, so yeah, if you have any interest in attending these events and seeing in person, learning, connecting, be happy to share more information about these events. So,
Awesome. Well, good deal. Well, thanks folks for listening today, and we will connect with you next time.
bye bye.